The first paper is the title is the Social Capital and Social Innovation in South Korea. The subtitle is the effect of trust, norms, and network. I think this is the important, interesting topic, the relationship between social capital and social innovation. So regarding the South Korea, so Min Jung Park and then Sang Il Han will present this paper. So today, the Min Jung Park, your presenter, can you start now?
Yeah, sure, Professor. Can I start now?
Yes.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Min Jung Park. I'm a PhD student at Yonsei University. Today, I'm going to make a presentation on my research, which is about social capital and social innovation in South Korea. Especially, it is about the effect of trust, norms, and networks on social innovation. Based on this list of contents, I will introduce and explain my research. Social innovation has been receiving increasing attention as diverse social problems that Korean society has been facing cannot be addressed with the same ways used in the past. So a more innovative and a more effective responses are required. In order to foster social innovation, local community members should make an effort to gather and discuss, diagnose demands, identify problems, and propose solutions based on their own capabilities. Therefore, there must be exchange and collaboration among local members through social capital. In this sense, it is important to empirically analyze whether and how social capital promotes social innovation in the Korean local community. In order to achieve this purpose of research, we clarify two concepts, which are social capital and social innovation, and review relevant literatures on the relationship between them. Then, using the regression analysis, especially two-stage risk scales analysis, we analyzed the relationship between social capital and social innovation. What is social capital? Social capital is defined in various ways, depending on researchers. In general, social capital is defined as social assets such as networks, trust, and norms that facilitate collaboration and social transactions among people. The social capital can be classified into structural, relational, and cognitive dimensions. With respect to these three dimensions of social capital, the capital is divided into structural capital, represented by networks, relational capital, represented by trust, and cognitive capital, represented by norms. Networks indicate the linkage between actors, such as individuals or groups, and the form of linkage that appears in these relationships. Next, trust refers to the belief of individuals, groups, and social institutions through repeated exchanges. Lastly, norms indicate the degree of consensus within a social system and playing an important role in resolving common problems. Based on this definition of social capital, we focused on three types of social capital, which is networks, trust, and norms. Social innovation has been developed in South Korea as civil society is growing. The government is emphasizing collaboration with private sector or civil society, and private companies are focusing on social responsibility and creation of social values. According to social innovation literatures, there are three characteristics of it. Those are novelty, collaboration, and learning. The first characteristic of social innovation is novelty. There are many studies defining social innovation as new solutions to meet social needs and solve social problems. The next characteristic is collaboration. According to Young, social innovations are technologies that facilitate coordination with others to be successful. Finally, from the perspective of learning, social innovation can be defined as a collective process of learning involving the distinctive participation of civil society actors aimed to solve a social need through change in social practices that produce change in social relationships, systems, and structures, contributing to large socio-technical change. There have been growing studies on the relationship between social capital and social innovation. The previous studies found the positive effect of social capital on social innovation in social enterprises. However, on the contrary, there is a study that shows social capital has no effect on social innovation. So we need to explore whether and how social capital, especially networks, trust, and norms foster social innovation. Let's focus on each dimension of social capital and its relationship with innovation. Community members can exchange new information necessary for social innovation through their networks and can increase opportunities for learning to acquire new knowledge necessary for innovation. The impact on social innovation will be different depending on the degree of the networks, and it is expected that the more the network and the stronger the bond of network, the higher the possibility of social innovation in the local community. Trust among community members is expected to contribute to promoting social innovation. When community members trust each other, they would collaborate and exchange formal and informal resources for innovation activities. However, Greenwich argued higher probability of innovation in weak ties. It means it is difficult to promote innovation when people are very close, spend a long time together, and share the same emotions. So this study will investigate how trust affects social innovation in South Korea. Norms indicate that community members consider to be worthy of following and forms a sympathy for the necessity and participation of social innovation, thereby facilitating collaboration among members. According to the previous studies, there were different results on the relationship between norms and innovation. However, this innovation is not social innovation, but organizational innovation. Thus, we need to focus on social innovation. This study used data collected from 19 local areas in South Korea. The sample size is 1,900. To clarify concepts and verify the measurements, we used exploratory fact analysis, and to analyze the causal relationship, we used regression analysis. We adopted 2 SAGE risk scales in order to solve endogeneity problems. Specifically, we used instrumental variables in order to control the probability of endogeneity problems caused by reverse causation between social capital and social innovation. The probability of problems caused by omitted variables in our analytical framework and common method bias. This is an analytical framework to test the relationship between social capital and social innovation. Independent variables include 3 types of social capital, which are trust, norms, and networks. And dependent variables include 3. And dependent variables are novelty, collaboration, and learning. In this study, we control several variables related to the local people's demographics that might affect the dependent variables. It is noteworthy that we did simple regression analysis rather than multiple regression analysis. This is because there was no combination of instrumental variables to meet the statistical standards suggested by Craig and Donald. All agent value were less than 10, although the minimum agent value must be over 10. So there would be a weak instrument problems when you used any combination of instrumental variables in our data. That's why we used a simple regression analysis. This table shows the demographics of respondents. The respondents were equally composed of 100 people in 19 local areas, and 53% of them were male and the rest were female. The majority were 50s and followed by 40s. And as for the period of residence, almost 40% of the respondents have lived in the local area less than 10 years, and more than 30% of respondents graduated university. This table shows that the results of an exploratory factor analysis, the KMO value and the Bartlett's sparsity test value were statistically significant. Through this, we can verify the validity of our social capital and social innovation measurements. But we used respondents' trust of their neighborhoods, so the item is not included in this exploratory factor analysis. This is descriptive statistics among the variables, income and the total number of monthly participation of diverse activities, which is included in the networks variable. We calculated the natural logarithm of these two variables in order to make the variables as normal distributions. Then we did descriptive analysis. This table shows the results of regression analysis of social capital and novelty. All three models were statistically significant, and we can check the different results of ordinary risk scales and two-stage risk scales regression analysis. Trust, networks, and norms positively affect novelty. And this table is about the results of regression analysis of social capital and collaboration. When you see the results of two SLS regression analysis, all three models were statistically significant. And each dimension of social capital, especially trust, networks, and norms, has a positive effect on collaboration. This last table shows the results of the relationship between social capital and learning. In here, all dimensions of social capital positively affect learning. In conclusion, this study has some implications. We identified the validity of two concepts, social capital and social innovation. Social capital composes of trust, norms, and networks, and social innovation is characterized into novelty, collaboration, and learning. Moreover, we found the causal relationship between social capital and social innovation. Each dimension of social capital has positive effect on all dimensions of social innovation. This is my presentation. Thank you for your listening, and I kindly ask you to share any feedback or comments for this research. Thank you for your help in advance.
Okay, thank you very much, Min Young Park. I think that this is a very interesting research result showing the Korean case regarding the relationship between social capital and social innovation, which is very hot issue in the global research, interest regarding, the community development. And now we have, I think some of the audience here. So any questions, comments from audience? I think, okay. So maybe some audience will join the later. So then we will continue to the presentation, next presentation. Okay, next presentation is the title is Empirical Analysis of Volunteer Work and the Participation in Social Economic Organizations, Mediating Effects of a Sense of Community. Okay. The presenter is Dr. Juhi Park, who is Hanna, you Hanna?
Yeah, I heard that Hanna, you will present first.
Okay. The order of the presentation is changed.
Yes.
Changed. I'm sorry. Okay. Next presentation is the title is the Development and Validation of Social Entrepreneurial Antecedents. Okay. So and then presenter is Dr. Hanna Yu. Okay. Please, Dr. Han.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, I'm Dr. Yu from Yonsei University. I'm pleased to be here with you at Global Social Economy Forum. Today, I'm going to present the research paper about the development and validation of social entrepreneurial antecedents with Professor Han. Because the term social entrepreneurial antecedents will be repeated many times in this presentation, for convenience sake, I will use SEA as an abbreviation for social entrepreneurial antecedents. I'd like to open up by introducing our overview. There are 5 main themes dealt with in this presentation. First, motivation. Second, theoretical background. Third, method. Fourth, finding. And lastly, discussion and conclusion. From this presentation, you will review previous studies on SEA, develop and validate the measurement scale of SEA. This is studied with the importance of the role of social entrepreneurs in the region, paying attention to the local community as a subject of solving social problems. It also paid attention to the growing number of social entrepreneurs training programs and to find out who will participate and explore opportunities to solve community problems. Currently, research interest in social entrepreneurship continues to increase, and research on the relationship of organizational performance, social performance, and sustainability is mainly being conducted. But research on SEA is insufficient. Therefore, the purpose of this study is to examine the concept of SEA through existing study and to develop a measurement scale through empirical analysis. The origin of the concept of social entrepreneurship can be found in the entrepreneurial concept of economist Say and Schumpeter, and Drayton, the founder of Ashoka Foundation. In general, social entrepreneurship is conceptualized in terms of leadership qualities and is mainly categorized as innovativeness, proactiveness, and risk-taking. In addition to the above three concepts, researchers are adding some concepts to explain social entrepreneurship. So this concept has been explained in a wide variety. On the other hand, the ambiguity of the concept is increasing as a result of the failure to strict conceptualize and categorize. In particular, it is reasonable to classify an individual's perception, posture, and motivation as factors related to individual tendencies or quality in the stage before leading to actual behavior. That is SCA. Therefore, it is not appropriate to include and analyze pro-social tendencies in the elements of social entrepreneurship. According to the theory of planned behavior in 1991, an individual's behavior to produce a specific result is determined by intention, and the intention is determined by the antecedent factor of attitude, subjective norm, and perceived control. Attitude related to the perception of whether one's actions are desirable. Subjective norm related to how you perceive others. Perceived control is the perception of behavioral control over one's behavior. Therefore, intentions such as starting a social enterprise or characteristics of social entrepreneurship are distinct concepts from attitude, behavioral control, and norms for social phenomena. In that sense, discovering and conceptualizing that what SCA are is both meaningful in enhancing theoretical rigor and important in designing educational programs to foster social entrepreneurs. SEA is about how social entrepreneurs' behavioral intentions are formed. This is a prerequisite for social entrepreneurs to act and an important indicator which can predict their behavior. Starting with the study of Mayer and Novoa, 4 factors have been mainly studied as SEA. These are empathy, moral obligation, self-efficacy, and social support. If you look at the table that summarizes previous studies, you can notice that the conceptual distinction of SCA is being studied slightly differently, but most of them focuses on 4 factors. However, previous studies used in a case study-based quantitative approach, which targeted employee, volunteer, or students, so there was a limit to the generalization. Therefore, this study aims to analyze social entrepreneurship in the region based on data collected extensively from residents in the South Korea. This study analyzed the data of 1,900 local residents in the community in South Korea. The 19 regions are the most representative places where entrepreneurial activities of local communities are being activated. The measurement scale used in the survey consists of 16 questions on 4 factors of SCA. 16 questions have already been used in Hockhart's study, and the validity of the questions has been secured in Europe context. In this study, the measurement scale used in Hockhart's study was translated into Korean and used. For the translation of the questions, a total of 6 people who have doctoral degrees have revised the questions several times after evaluating their readability and measurability. SPSS and AMOS programs were used to analyze the result of the survey. The research method used in this study are as follows: correlation analysis, exploratory factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, conversion validity, discriminant validity, higher order factor analysis, and predictive validity analysis. In the basic statistical analysis, there were no variables with excessively large skewness and kurtosis, and all variables met normality. Among the variables, the highest average value was seeing socially disadvantaged people triggers an emotional response in me. Overall, the average value of the variables that measure empathy and moral obligation in the cognitive dimension was high, while the perception of self-efficacy and social support in facilitative dimension was low. First, three variables with low factor loading or strong correlation with other factors were excluded through exploratory factor analysis. One from social support, one from self-efficacy, and one from empathy. After excluding the three, the statistical significance of the analysis was very high, and the KMO value exceeded 0.8, indicating that the analysis was relatively valid. In other words, three variables of empathy, four variables of moral obligation, three variables of self-efficacy, and three variables of social support included. Through confirmatory factor analysis, we analyzed whether it is more appropriate to conceptualize certain variables by dividing them into four factors than other models. Model 1 is an analysis one composed of four factors: empathy, moral obligation, self-efficacy, and social support. And we named it as a four-factor model. Model 2 is one composed of 7 and 6 variables, respectively, divided into cognitive and facilitative dimension, and we named it as a two-factor model. Lastly, we established a one-factor model that included the entire measurement variable as one latent variable. As a result of the analysis, it was found that Model 1 showed the most valid figure. In Model 1, GFI, IFI, CFI, RMI, and RMSEA, which generally evaluate the validity, all meet the validity criteria. On the other hand, the two-factor model and the one-factor model were found difficult to use for analysis because the fit of the model was low. Therefore, as a result of factor analysis, SCA consists of empathy, moral obligation, self-efficacy, and social support. And the variables were presented in 3, 4, 3, and 3, respectively. In order to analyze the reliability of each sub-factor of confirmatory factor analysis, the conversion validity and discriminant validity of the four-factor model were verified. First, the conversion validity was verified through factor loadings, construction reliability, and average variance extraction. As a result of the analysis, it was found that the construction reliability was greater than the 0.7 in all factors. The average variance extract value was also greater than the 0.5 for all factors. So the conversion validity has been confirmed. In order to satisfy the discriminant validity, the AVE value must be greater than the square value of the correlation coefficient, and the analysis showed like that. In addition, we checked whether the standard error multiplied by 2 was included in the range of adding or subtracting 1 from the correlation coefficient, and then confirmed that discriminant validity was secured because it was not included. In addition, the higher order factor analysis was reviewed as a process to secure validity and reliability. As a result, it was found that the factor loading of the higher order factors for the potential variable were all significant. In addition, the overall goodness of fit index was generally evaluated at an excellent level. When developing a new measurement tool, there is a way to check the validity by reviewing its relevance to the existing tool. In this study, in confirming the predictive validity of the developed measurement tool, SEA-related studies focused on the result that social entrepreneurship has a positive effect on the behavioral aspect of the community. Volunteer activities, sense of community, and social problem-solving effort can predict social entrepreneurship. So these variables are closely related. As a result of exploratory factor analysis, the KMO value was found 0.852. 3 measurement variable of volunteers, 5 of sense of community, and 1 of social problem-solving support efforts, conceptually and reasonably classified, and all of the factor loadings were good. As a result of analysis, both SEA developed in this study and the variables were found to have a positive correlation, confirming the predictive validity. Now I'd like to sum up the main points of this research. The implication of this study is that, first of all, the validity of SEA was confirmed. As a result of the analysis, SEA were conceptualized into 4 latent variables: empathy, moral obligation, self-efficacy, and social support. Second, it confirmed the importance of cognitive dimension. As a result of analysis, overall it was found that the average value of the cognitive dimension was high, and the average value of the facilitative dimension was low. Moreover, as for facilitative dimension, the correlation of concepts was relatively weak. Hence, we could confirm that the concept was not established. The last is the advancement of the research and learning system to foster social entrepreneurs. The curriculum for fostering social entrepreneurs currently in operation should be reorganized, and in the process, the learning system should be advanced by reviewing the characteristics of social entrepreneurs and the knowledge system they need. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you for attention. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Han. I think this research paper has also very interesting implications for the research in the community development, social entrepreneurship, because this paper show that in a sense we want to community development based on social economy, and then we want to have more active social entrepreneur. Then next question will be, who can be potential entrepreneur, social entrepreneur? So then it's very important to find potential entrepreneurs. So this research can show that some predictors who can be more active social entrepreneurs, and then how the society, community, educate the people and then organize the community to find, educate, learning, the people and to be future social entrepreneurs. So then, in that case, this the research, so the tool can find the instrument to the potential entrepreneurs. Also, other countries can apply this analytical tool to the you're finding your own the potential future entrepreneurs, I think. Okay, any further comments, questions from the audience? Well, no, I think that we have in this session few audiences because of time difference. We are this global, conference. So everywhere in different time zones are supposed to join this conference. So then many of them will listen to the recordings of this session, I think. Okay, next presentation, final presentation is its title is an empirical analysis of volunteer work and the participation in social economy and organizations, mediating an effective sense of community. Okay, this is about, I think, the relationship between volunteers and then the community participations. So I think that another interesting topic we want to clarify. Okay, the presenter is Juhi Park. Dr. Park, please.
Hello, my name is Juhi Park. Today I'm going to talk about the empirical analysis of the volunteer work and the participation in social economy organizations, especially the mediating effect of sense of community. This is the content, and this study is about the relationship of volunteer work and the social economy participation. The role of social economy is meeting the unmet needs of community that are not met by market and government. So the resident participation and expression of opinions and commitment to the community are very important to the development of the social economy. And also volunteering is defined as activities for the benefit of society and the public that are not greater than one's own interest, including not taking economic remuneration as a direct purpose, and not by legal obligation or coercion. In Korea, the share of the social economy among the volunteer organizations in South Korea is very small, about 11% of volunteers. So this is very important to identify the causality that community members volunteering leads the expression of the sense of community, which is required by social economy and develops into active participation in social economy. So the purpose of this study is to study the effect of volunteer work on social economic participation, especially the mediating effect of the sense of community. Here I'm gonna briefly present the history of volunteerism in South Korea. Self-help activities in traditional societies is old, and also the influx of Christianism in early 20s has also impact on volunteerism in South Korea. Also, the rural enlightenment movement and Semaul movement and the formation of various councils after Asian Games and Olympic Games in 80s, and also especially the education reform in 1995 impact on the expansion of the volunteering. And there is a law of the name is Framework Act on Volunteer Activities, and the definition is the same which I defined the previous slide. And also the value of volunteering is it can be a learning platform for students, and also especially since the formal education and established learning methods aimed at nurturing talent necessary for the industrial capitalism. But volunteering is the process of cultivating citizenship and internalize social values. So the volunteering have important value. The focus of this study is the effect of the volunteering on the sense of community and also the social economic participation. I'm going to first see the relationship between volunteering and community. The process by which volunteering contributes to community formation can be explained in 3 ways. First, in the literature, first is the capacity building of the participant. Participating in volunteer activities have the positive effect and increase positive self-awareness, fostering values such as altruism, consideration, social responsibility, and solidarity, and a sense of willingness to contribute to the community if the interest of the community and myself are aligned. Also, autonomy, self-efficacy, and problem-solving ability, and spirit of challenging and self-confidence will be promoted by volunteering activities. Second process is through formation of social capital. If you participate in volunteering activities, you can meet many people so that you can accumulate social capital, which is norm, trust, and networks, which present Min-Jung Park in the previous slide or previous presentation. And also the volunteering accumulate trust and networks and acquire social values and networks, and volunteers acquire social values through repeated mutual help activities while volunteering. Third mechanism is the comprehensive learning. Participating in volunteering make people to reflect on one's relationship with the community, while recognizing new experience outside of the existing way of life and changes in the particular social and technical environment. This is the 3 processes by which volunteering contribute to the community formation. And there are empirical studies on volunteerism and community formation, which is following. And there are many literatures about the volunteering, sense of community, and participation in social economy. They show that volunteering have the positive effect on the sense of community. And also there are a few papers which show that the mediating effect of volunteer activity on the citizen participation, and also the effect of a sense of community on community engagement. There are some research which show the effect of sense of community on community engagement. Also, there are a few research which show the effect of a sense of community on social economic participation. Yeah. So therefore, our model of the research will show next. But before that, I'm gonna shortly present the category of social innovation organization, social economy organization. In many other countries, for example, Quebec, there are some division of some people categorize social economy as a traditional or sometimes as a new. So, for example, agricultural co-ops and traditional unions and consumer co-ops or mutuals are usually told that as traditional social economy. On the other hand, like a social cooperatives or like small self-help organizations are sometimes called new social economy. But in Korea, the category of social economy organization is slightly different. There are some diversities in historical formation of co-ops in South Korea. For example, the agricultural co-ops here it calls a 농협, had the material heritage of the extortion agencies during the Japanese colonial period. But introducing democratic institutions through the recent reforms. And the financial crops, for example, 새마을금고, which grew under the nurturing of the military government. But they also adopted reforms. And also the credit union, they have a history of voluntary democratic and self-help history. But there are some criticism that autonomy has been reduced during the governmental financial reform process in the late 1990s. And consumer co-ops are very voluntary and democratic and self-help history. So there are some disagreements exist which cooperative should be included in the social economy organization. Some people disagree that 농협 can be included in social economy. So in this study, we define the social economy in two ways. First, in the narrow sense, we define the social economy. Second, in the broader sense, we define the social economy so that we can try to explain and try to include the diverse opinion about the category of social economy organization. This is a theoretical model. So we will see the effect of the volunteering on the participation in the social economy. That's the first hypothesis. And second, we will see the effect of sense of community on participation in social economy. Second, we will see the mediating effects of sense of community. So, and since we distinguish the social economy in narrow sense and also social economy in broad sense, we expect the mediating effect of the two will be different in the two definitions. This is the variables, and shows that we define the social economy in broad sense includes two categories. First is the usual way we define the social economy organization. Social enterprise, social co-ops, consumer food co-ops, health co-ops, self-support enterprise, general co-ops, village enterprise, crop groups, small crop co-op groups. But when we define the social economy in broad sense, we will include 농협 and 새마을금고 and credit unions. When we define the social economy in narrow sense, we will exclude 농협 and 새마을금고 and credit union. And the independent variable is volunteering. And we ask how many times a month on average do you volunteer for community activities? And mediating variable is the sense of community. And 5 items is used to capture the construct. And we controlled several variables, which is gender, age, and city, and the residence, period of residence, and education, and the household income. This is the descriptive statistics. Since we used the same data which Minjung Park and Hanna Yu used in the previous paper, I'm going to go to the next slide. This shows the summary of the descriptive statistics. The participation in social economy in broad sense is about 12%. And the participation in social economy in narrow sense is about 3%. I think this value is very reliable because the 3% is the same with the number of, this number is coincide with the sum of the number of the two largest consumer co-ops in Korea, which include many many members of the consumer co-ops have the multiple membership in many social organizations. I thought the third point is very, first percent show very valid value. And the independent value of volunteering is 20%, 21 times. And the mediating variables values is like this. This also shows the descriptive statistics of the social economic participation. Since the time, I'm gonna go to the next slide. And this shows the validity and reliability analysis. And next, this is the our main result of Medialink effect. So first, we test the model 1, which shows the relationship between volunteering and the sense of community. And second, the model 2. In the model 1, we used the OLS. In the model 2, we used logistic regression, which shows the volunteering relationship between volunteering and social economic participation. Second is the show the mediating effect, because we include the control and we include the sense of community in the regression. So in the model 3, we also use the logistic regression. So as you see, this is the broad sense participation. When it is in this table, we define the social economy in the broad sense. Here, we can see the result and the effect of volunteering on social economic participation, but we cannot confirm the mediating effect. But in the next slide, when we define the social economy in narrow sense, we can confirm the mediating effect of volunteering and of the sense of community. I think this result show the difference between the two categories of the social economy. And next, so it's I'm gonna sum up the main point. First hypothesis was the volunteering has a positive effect on social economic participation, and this has been confirmed in both broad and narrow definition of social economy organization. But the volunteering has a positive effect on social economic participation mediated by the sense of community is the second hypothesis. The mediating effect is only confirmed when we define social economy organization in narrow sense, but not confirmed in when we define social organization, economy organization in broad sense. So I think this has the part implication. First, it is important to volunteer experiences in the community be experience that confirmed your people's identity as a member of community. So if the volunteering experience does not foster the sense of community, it cannot lead to the participation in social economy in other civil society organizations. Second, the activity, when we see the control variables, Second is the activation of the channel that allow various volunteer participation in the local community to assess the social economy. Since if you participate in other various organizations volunteering activities, you can lead to the social economy organization as well. So activating the channel will improve the active participation in social economy and many organizations in civil society. Yeah. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for hearing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Park. I think this is also a very interesting research result. I think especially, everyone want to interested in the relationship between voluntary work and participation in social economy organization. But this research, include the sense of community is as another mediating variable, and then at the same time, based on a unique history of Korea, development of the social economy sector in Korea, because we have two groups of social economy organization. One is more voluntary, social economy organization. The other group is the so-called government-controlled social economy organization. Then by distinguishing two groups, this research, explain some differences how between two groups, how the voluntary work and sense of community affect the actual participation of the social economic organization. Okay, so now we have three very interesting and then important research result focusing on Korean case, especially the IPAD, the Research Institute for Poverty Alleviation and International Development, have a special project to create database focusing on the theme, the formation of a community and social entrepreneurship and local economic development activation. So then, based on survey data of the data collection, we can report some interesting result of the research analysis. So, any questions, comments from the audience? I think that I know that this session, our session, will be recorded and then posted on the website in GSEF. So later, the people in the global society, can see the video again, and then maybe they have questions, comments later. So, if you look at our program, you see the main organizer of this session, Professor Sang-il Han. His mail email address is there. Hans and Yonsei AC.kr, HANS at Yonsei, YONSE point and AC point KR. So if you are interested in any questions, I want to give us comments to our sessions. Please don't hesitate to send email to the Professor Hans. Then we'll respond to your question and comments. Thank you very much. So I hope that this research analysis will contribute to the understanding of the Korean case. At the same time, our data collection structures will give some insight to other groups, research groups, to creating new database for the community development. especially focusing on the social economy sector. So thank you for all presenters, and then the people who see our session later. Okay, welcome to your comments and questions. Thanks again. Thank you very much. We'll finish this session. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.